Heyo, duckies and dice fiends! Welcome in. It is Tuesday, and that means it is time for the Table Talk Show. As always, I am Kay. I am one of your hosts. You can find me here on Tuesdays doing this, and of course, Thursday, find me over at Entropy Emporium. No, not Entropy Emporium. Find me over at Metal Arc Studios for the finale of A Sterling Garden, a Star Wars 5e campaign. We'll see if my disaster queer lives. So far, they're one of the only ones who doesn't have a family member in this fight. David, who the heck is you, and what the heck is we doing here?
On the bright side, if your disaster queer does not live, they will die so fabulously that they will live on forever.
She will.
But hi, I'm David, despite not having all my hair, and this
Hard to recognize
is
you, my dude.
right. This is the Tuesday Table Talk Show. I got the words in the right order this time.
You did.
Where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better GM, how to be a better player, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
Speaking of inclusivity, I sent you a new link because it's not working.
Yeah.
Captions are not behaving.
Bastards.
Hey, Matt, welcome on in. Hey, Lurking Writer. Also, yes, part of the reasons I'm excited to play the disaster queer in this final fight is I get to roll this many dice on top of my weapon damage, and any other BS I get to pull. 10d8 is a heck of a drug.
Listen, anything that'll let you roll a bunch of dice is always a win as far as I'm concerned.
Right. But you all are not here. Hey, Ilaria, welcome in. You all are not here just for us. We are here, obviously, with a very special guest today. We are here with Drake Lionheart to talk about Tales from the Table Studio and what all is going on there. So, Lion, Drake, which do you prefer?
I go by Lion. Most people call me Lion.
Lion, who the heck is you, and what do you do that's brought you here?
Well, as you said, I'm Drake Lionheart. Most people call me Lion. I am the studio director at Tales from the Table Studios, which is a place where we try our best to make sure that we can create platforms for people to come and tell stories, share their experiences, specifically with a focus on trying to platform more marginalized creators, because unfortunately we exist in a space where there are way too many of copy-pasted people sitting at a copy-pasted table telling the same copy-pasted story, and it's real upsetting.
Yeah, I have definitely been the token femme at too many tables and been like, yeah, so I don't mind romance lines, but I'm not here to play your girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my primary function. Yes, correct. It is objectively an awesome name. We agree, Lurking Writer. So thank you for the lurk, Matt. So y'all have a couple projects going on. Just a few.
Yeah, we tend to have sort of these waxing and waning periods where we have a lot of stuff going on, like in front of the camera, and then we are working on things behind the camera. We take a little bit of a break, and we just sort of explode for the next quarter. So we're coming out of the resting period, getting into the summer. And we've had a lot going on. I'm very excited about all of it, obviously, just because everything that we do is another great opportunity to provide people with more faces that they haven't seen before, which is just so important. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, especially because I know we're very early into this conversation, but it really it matters so much, and it doesn't get the focus it should. And it's exceedingly frustrating when there are so many conversations that happen on socials and in spaces only for it to continue to be an issue. I know I kind of veered us off a little bit into that.
Not at all.
But I mean, I think it just can't be said enough.
We champion a bit of that here as well. Mostly because I think David would smack me if we had all copy-paste tables.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's valid. And I do want to be super upfront because I do believe in transparency. I think it's really important. And when we started Tales from the Table Studios, we were in a very, very similar place to where a lot of places start, where for us at least, that there was a lot of that idea of, well, we're going to be friends sitting down and playing a game, and why not share that with folks? And then it was really in the first month or two as we progressed that I was really lucky to have conversations with some people who were like, hey, this is a thing and you're new to this and don't understand that, and that's okay, but you have to hear it so you know. Now is when you get to take that information and either do something about it or continue to be a problem. And so that was the first step towards what I feel like is something that we'll never stop working on, which is just, making sure that that isn't what we're doing here, because it's just a waste of everyone's time.
That tale is very similar to Gilmore's, and I am genuinely surprised he's not shown his little fuzzy face yet.
I haven't seen him at all.
He's chilling somewhere.
Maybe he has some indigestion.
Aww.
He has taken Jareth's favorite bed. That's what's going on.
Oh no! And I know Jareth is just like sitting there looking at him, forlorn,
Amazing,
a little sad.
I think Jareth has claimed the love seat, the entire love seat, to himself. So everyone needs to see themselves the hero of the story. They don't all have to look like me. Exactly.
Love that. Yep, that's the vibe right there.
Yeah, David and I have spent a lot of time talking about. I think it was B. Dave Walters said some things about like storytelling is like divine. It is what makes us human. We became human sitting around the fire and telling stories. And if you do not see yourself in those stories, you don't know what you can or should be, what you should not be. It is through stories that we find ourselves. And that's part of the reason TTRPGs are so powerful, is it's interactive storytelling with, depending on the system, surprisingly few, the system and the GM, surprisingly few rules. I've played some systems that had way too many rules.
Yeah, yep, been there. Not excited to go back ever. I do. I would love. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
I was say, I'm the person who loves Pathfinder. I love those rules. So if I say there's a system with too many rules.
Yeah, wasn't your first in-person game
1E?
Pathfinder 1E? No, I thought it was D&D 3.5.
No, it was
talking about too many rules.
Game.
Right. Oh man, we spent the entire first session, which by the way was like 4 or 5 hours, just making our characters.
I was trying to build a level 5 druid in Pathfinder 1E with only books, no online resources. I didn't know what a cantrip was, and 3 hours in, I was too afraid to ask.
That's so valid. That's so fair. Oh.
Humans need fantasy to be human, to be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. Terry Pratchett. Yes.
I think it's really important to mention, because obviously all of this is very true, and it's one of my favorite parts about TTRPGs is that collaborative storytelling, and not even just sort of like for the sake of seeing part of yourself represented in the story, but also because there's so much of your voice that needs to be heard, and the stories that are told are always going to be more meaningful and more engaging when they're coming from different sources. Being able to sit down and share what your experiences are and what they mean to you will always be different. And as you pull from, different cultures and heritages and just life experiences, there really is something so meaningful and so powerful about taking all of these pieces and creating something so much better than just what you or a couple of people with very similar experiences will tell. And I think you see it. I think you see it a lot of the time, just looking through the space, and even just at like tables at home when you go to like friendly game stores or wherever else. Because, and that's one thing. So I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent if that's okay.
Do it.
But feel free to stop me at any time. So I, for many years, I ran like D&D at like comic shops and stuff. And it was so often the case where it was just a bunch of people who looked like me. And it was always kind of a source of frustration. And just, it's been really cool over the last couple of years to be able to stop by a lot of these shops and see how different that's become now. And it's just so exciting and so awesome. And I think that part of that, I don't want to talk, well, it's not about negative talk ever. But I think that at least part of that really is because of how much more open the TTRPG space game-wise has become. I think being able to move past nothing against D&D. But I think being able to move past just the standard concept of D&D and sort of the almost like I mean not even almost just a disappointing way that some of that community has tried to create that sort of gate and that barricade. I think being able to branch out into other games, even just like Pathfinder, with I mean it's not really as D&D adjacent as it used to be, but being able to branch out into those other games, I think, has created a lot more opportunity for people to feel comfortable and safe coming to a table, sitting down, and being able to share themselves. And I think that's really cool to see. I think it's awesome. I always get so excited being able to see that happening now.
Yeah, one of my first GMs for a streamed game, no less. He was the GM you expect to see. Exactly. Picture the person. That's who he was. And I'm like, yeah, I only just got, I'm playing my first campaign. I've always wanted to play, but I never really had the chance. He's like, what do you mean you didn't have the chance? You could have just gone to your local game store. I'm like, so, number one, I grew up in Bible Belt, Texas, where the satanic, and went to a Christian school. So satanic panic was in full swing. I would have been expelled had they found out I was playing D&D. And also, had I, in my little Christian school uniform, walked into a local game store in high school, wouldn't have gone well. Wouldn't have gone well. I was just watching David fuming over there.
Yeah, like not only did I picture you ending up in the Texas killing fields, but also I remember in like 2015, 2016, like definitely before the Panini happened. I had to go to a brick and mortar gaming shop to get Pokemon cards for my niece and nephew. And at the time I lived in the smack center of Los Angeles. And when you walk in, there were so many dudes in there that looked like they smell bad. And they didn't, but they sure look the part.
Hey, Chrysicon, welcome
in. And the only woman that was in there was very obviously a lesbian. And actually, the first 2 times I ever went to a brick and mortar game store, there was a bunch of white dudes and 1 lesbian. But like my experience with Kay and with running tables has evolved so much because the first 3 games I was a part of, it was me and a bunch of white guys. And like not last year, but the year before, we had a table that was all black players. And we've had multiple tables where it was all queer, trans, non-binary people. And it's like
I was the token white.
Right.
Would love to see it.
And it's just it's really exciting to see so much diverse representation in what traditionally was one of the whitest and most male-dominated spaces.
And let me tell y'all, I know I wouldn't have survived my local game store as a high schooler in Texas, because as an adult, I worked in comics. I colored pages. I had my art on the shelves of comic book stores. The owners of the shops knew me. I would go into a comic book store, which was my field. I was a working professional, and the customers would try to bully me out, and the shop owners would have to step in. And comics and TTRPG aren't that far off, right? Like
it's true.
It's all pretty close. So, yeah, it has been really cool to see the space change in great ways. And like also, we were talking about this before, it's not just, here's a cool thing about TTRPGs is, and I want to be careful how I say this, it is a great empathy tool. you learn, not just sharing your story, learning the stories of others, learning how other people see the world, learning the experience of others in a immersive way is so powerful.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we won't go on to this tear because we've done it on this show a couple times before, so we're not going to do it again for those of y'all who know it. But, like, you don't have to build racism into your world. If you're going to, make sure everyone on board is on board with it. Like, David ran a home game for us where racism was part of it, right? It was fantasy racism, and we all knew, and I learned so much from that game. Now, again, it was a mask. I got to take it off and go back to my white life after, but I remember having a distinct moment of like, oh, that's what that character meant. Like, it was an eye-opening moment for me. So yeah, that's one of the really cool things about this is it's giving space for other people to tell their stories. It's giving space for other people to learn the viewpoints and the experience of others in a way where you hyper internalize it. You're not just hearing a story, you're living the story.
And I think it's worth. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to cut you off.
No, please go.
I think it's worth mentioning how there really is an important balancing act to be done, right? Because in the same way that we never want like racism or something like slavery or something like genocide to ever become just like a for lack of a better term, fun tool that you have in the game box. But at the same time, you do want to make sure that you you don't go erasing everyone's experiences, right? Because one of the biggest like over adjustments that I see a lot of the time is that idea of, okay, there's no racism in this game. It doesn't exist. It's never been a thing. And we're never going to address it. Which, if that's what everyone at the table wants to be the thing, is fine. But to come in with that sort of being your standard, you immediately erase so many people's experiences in a really dangerous way. And for me, at least, it's very much something that I owe a lot to. I'm going to drop some names here because I think they're amazing people who deserve to be called out for this. But like Mark J, Logan, both from Apochromatic Unlimited, Candace the Great, Stefan Huddleston are all people who have had, yes, the Magnificent. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I hope, feel free to yell at me later, Candace. It's fine. But are all people who I've been very lucky to be able to have some conversations with. And Mark specifically, there was a game we were doing for the studio a while back at this point where we have a safety sheet where I mean, hopefully it's something everyone's familiar with, but we have a safety sheet. And so racism was something that had been marked as a hard limit. And Mark brought up a really good point of being like, well, what exactly does this mean? I'd like us to have a conversation because does that just mean this isn't something that exists and I can't bring my experiences to the game? And I was very lucky to be able to sort of have that conversation then and follow it up with more conversations with like the aforementioned people in different places and times that have really helped with that understanding, because it really is that very easily missed problem that comes up where it's like, cool, this is not a problem anymore, we just won't do it. And it just erases so many people's experiences, and that's just not okay.
I had a GM go, I want to run a game in a world with no misogyny. So what is a world that's not like, what is that like? Basically turned to me and another person and said like, build that world. What's that like? And I'm like, I don't know. I literally cannot conceive how I would even exist in a world
Sure, yeah.
that has not been shaped by men. I can't do that. Is so much work that I can't even begin to conceptualize it, to build it for you.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because like one of like the flip sides of people's initial efforts to be anti-racist or anti-misogynist is to make the villain the embodiment of those things. And I get the ease of it, because like for me, making a villain a slaver is first thought. But in addition to the fact that like, you know, it makes you a better person to like move on from that. it also forces more creativity in your character construction, in your world building, in lots of things. Because like Kay knows that if I'm making a villain, there are gonna be some dead kids. Like I'm just gonna kill some kids. And you can't just start every game with, okay, so there's a kid on a table and we're cutting out his heart. Like,
Sure.
And so you end up with a more complex, interesting villain and a more complex, interesting world when it's not someone who owns slaves, beats his wife, and cut out the heart of a kid. Like, you get into like more complicated motivations, and it also helps you reflect on other aspects of society. Because like in a lot of our charity games, we build the villain as capitalism.
I love that.
Like
yeah.
it's always like some like shady billionaire who's exploiting everyone.
Yeah, Rex says in wrestling terms, it's going for cheap heat, like having the heel talk trash about the city they're in.
Rex, you're my favorite person in chat. I'm a sucker for a good wrestling mention.
And yeah,
But
like
yeah,
I will
100%.
I'm gonna throw the spice, I'm gonna throw the shade, and it's done with love. If you can't tell from my background, it's done with love. Campaign 2 of Critical Role was so much better than Campaign 1 because Campaign 2 didn't just rely on calling people lady parts as an insult, and things were a lot more interesting because they didn't just stick with the basic trope.
Yeah, agreed.
But this is a great topic. Dave and I will talk about this all day and all night, and chat will be here for it. But we need to make sure we talk about some of the projects that you are currently working on.
Well, I think I had a pretty good run keeping it from being focused on my stuff. We've got so much coming up over the summer. Some of the things that I'd really, just a couple. So one of the first things that I'd love to talk about that I want to mention is we have a Fabula Ultima series coming up called Sundered Skies. So that's something that's going to be run by Xtel, who you can find at like Xtel the King on socials. Xtel's amazing, just a phenomenal person. Primarily known for a lot of work in like Vampire, World of Darkness stuff. And Xtel and I, when we first had the conversation, and we're like, hey, I want you to come run something with us, which was, Xtel is now part of our staff. Again, full transparency. But when we first had this conversation, that was not the case. And I was like, hey, I want you to run something for us. What do you want to do? And the original plan was, we're going to do something vampire, because vampire is the whole gig, and that's what we want to do. And we're going to try and put a lot of focus into that and help X tell the story that he wants to tell. And then X came to me and was like, hey, with the way things have gone in the world, I think we should pivot away from personal horror right now. Instead, there's the story I really want to tell. And so we had a long conversation about it where he talked about putting a lot of the focus on sort of overcoming powerful enemies and like overwhelming adversity. Fighting to try and find hope and how to hold on to it when the oppressive forces just feel like they are impossible to survive or fight against.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, right. Not something I imagine that there's any comprehension of right now anywhere. But it was something that we were both so excited about, and something that he was so excited to be able to do. And so we're going to be doing that this summer. It's going to be a live series. We're really excited. We've got a great cast for that as well. We've got Madame Ava Couture is going to be a part of that. We have Q, who's another one of our staff members who's here actually for Body and Soul, which was amazing. One of my favorite, not to be biased or anything, but one of my favorite APs of all time. We have Taylor from Bloom and Blight.
The park on that one.
Oh, 100%, yes.
David was running production. I was like sitting on the sidelines in chat, just like.
Just every moment was absolutely beautiful. It was such an amazing, wonderful experience. We have Taylor from Bloom and Blight, which is one of my favorite like podcasts. I'm very, very excited to have Taylor along. We have Cass, who is you can find them on socials at Yoda Almighty. They were in our Path of the Fates game, our Star Wars series that just recently wrapped. that I've been bullied into a second season of, but we'll get there. Uh,
That never happened.
and then, yeah, and then, despite some protesting on my own, on my part, because I try and like hide behind the curtain as much as I can, I will also be on the cast for the game. And just so we had our first session 0. We had the way the studio does it. We always do a safety session 0 first. Our first session 0 has to be just strictly safety. We go over the sheet. We talk in depth about everything, what people are looking to explore, how they want to explore it, because that's super important. And I'm really excited with a lot of the things that we got to talk about there. And I think it's going to be something really special. And I'm sure that, again, there's the bias there, but I do think that there is a passion from everyone involved in the project that is going to be so apparent so immediately, in terms of just what it is that we're looking to put in and offer to people. There is so much going on right now in the world, right? And there's so much stress and there's so much uncertainty and frustration, right? Because there's so much of it that it was so easily avoided. There's so much of it that is happening, and there are people at the highest levels who are somehow still shocked Pikachu facing because it's insincere. And I think that it's going to be a really good opportunity to express and release some of that tension, and so that's something that I'm really excited for that we have coming up. That's something that we're going to be launching in July. We don't have hard dates for it yet. But it is something that we will be announcing outside of this soon. I think this is technically the first announcement of it. X was like, hey, please go say the thing.
Also,
but it is
Jason.
something. What?
Saying hi to Jason, who just showed up in chat.
But it is something that we're really excited about. And there's a lot of personal touches that are going to go into it from everyone involved that I think are going to be really meaningful.
You've got a stellar cast. Like, wow.
Yeah, I know I'll get yelled at. I'm fully aware that at the end of this interview, people are going to yell at me, but I fully look at this cast every day and go, I don't understand why I'm at this table. Everyone's amazing. It's going to be phenomenal. Yeah, all of those people are incredible people, and it's going to be a great time, and it's going to be really good.
Yeah, and so one thing I know a lot of folks in chat are either run APs or looking to run APs, looking to be in like, what's your approach to putting together a table like that? How do you even start? Obviously, hey GM, I want you to run something. What do you want to run?
Yeah. I mean, that's where it starts. Our first step is always, either sometimes people come to us. Sometimes we just see a person and are like, you're telling amazing stories. We would love to give you a platform, or we know you're looking for a place. So you reach out. And honestly, the best advice I can give anyone for that is reach out, do the thing. The worst thing that can happen is they go, no, thank you, I'm busy or not interested for A, B, or C reasons. Best case scenario on a no, they give you either a, here are the reasons why not, and that's something you can work on that you didn't even know was a problem, or they go, but keep me in mind because maybe my schedule will free up down the road. Either one is a win as far as I'm concerned. But it is very much that, like, reach out, approach them. Don't be afraid to tap people who have more followers than you, or bigger accounts than you, or work with other recognized. Try. The worst thing that can happen is they say no. Don't be pushy. Don't be demanding. Remember to appreciate and respect everyone's time. That's the most important part. People will
say here, no one owes you their time.
Yep.
No one owes you
perfect. Yep. Absolutely. 100%. You are asking them to come on your thing and bring people to you and tell a story through your medium. You are the one who is connecting with them. But once you have that conversation, I think that there are a lot of steps that have to happen very tightly afterwards, which is there has to be a conversation with your tail slinger, with your GM, whatever you want to call them, because you really want to understand what story they want to tell, the themes, what they want to touch on, what they want to avoid, what they really want to be able to connect with, and what kind of like energy they are looking to foster at the table. So for us, we have a informational packet that we send out to everyone we're going to be platforming or telling stories with. that tells them, here's what I need from you. We can either do a call and I can write up notes, or you can just send me like a blurb or whatever it is. And it helps fill in sort of those understandings. And once you have those on paper, it's something that we can sort of digest. And you can also look at and be like, this is what I wanted. Well, let me change this or this because that wasn't exactly what I meant. And I find it helps a lot. And from there, it is about going through the casting process. And there are a couple ways you can do that. Obviously, you can. So for us, we like to start with targeted casting. I'm at a point where, and really all of us at the studio collectively are in a place where we're very lucky to have like networked for a while. And especially through our like charity events, there are just a lot of people. We've been very, very lucky with our charity events. I'm not going to cry. I always cry when we talk about them. I've not cried at any of our charity events, but we're very lucky to have a lot of people that have come for those. And we always stay in contact and are like, hey, would you be interested in the future? Right. So our first thing is going, who do we know that would be a good fit for this table? And then once we have a list of who we think would be a good fit, then we go, okay, well, all of the people we prioritize having communications with are people who are BIPOC or marginalized folks, because that's the thing, right? So those are always the people we reach out to first once we have our list of who we feel would be a good fit and might be interested in. And it's just a matter of laying out the elevator pitch, and being like, hey, this is what we're looking to do. Would you be interested in having a conversation about this? And sometimes, again, you can go beyond the people you have those connections with, and you can look past it and go, well, this is someone I know in the space who might be a good fit for this, might be interested. I'm going to shoot my shot. Worst thing that happens is they say no, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Say no, and that's cool. So from there, oh, I'm sorry, what?
No. I'm saying hi to folks in chat.
I'm so sorry.
Keep going. You're good.
So yeah, and at that point, once you're done with that, you look at whatever seats you have left, and then what we'll do is usually we'll do an open casting call. We'll mention it in the Discord because we want to, make sure that our community is aware that it's going on, and that we try and make sure that people on our like server have the first like glimpse of that. We usually wait a day and then we post it out into like socials and everywhere else, and we put it out there usually for a week, maybe two, depending on what the timeline we're hoping for is. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I will say I think is worth mentioning, has become a little wider. We usually keep them open a little longer since the downfall of I'm still going to call it Twitter. I don't care. Because without Twitter being around in any meaningful way, I know it still exists, but I'm not going on it. Yeah. We don't do Nazis around here. Crazy thought. But not sure why that's such a confusing topic. But whatever. We're gonna not go off on that just yet. But it is something where it takes a little longer to get to as many people as you would like. So we tend to leave it open a little longer. But once that comes in, we talk to our Tailslinger, and we go through the list. We also talk to any of the mods we have assigned to the game, because we always make sure there's at least one staff member who's not involved in the game, like front-facing, in order to ensure there's someone who's not engaged that can deal with any problems that come up. And we assemble our cast. From there, we reach out to people who have put in their application, and we always do, I like to call it a vibe check. We will always set up a time where if you haven't been on the channel before, we will do a call with, it's usually me and our Tailslinger, and then the player. And that way we can talk and we tell you a little bit more about the game, and we go over the rules, regulations, expectations for the studio, our goals, our intent, the Tailslinger's goals with the story. It also creates an opportunity for them to be able to ask questions, look for clarifications, and to provide whatever they are looking for as well. And then from there, we have a conversation with the Tailslinger to see how they feel, make sure everyone's comfortable. And if they're cool with having them on board, then we send them an invite. And one thing that I suggest to everyone, because I don't see it happen enough, like when I get hit with casting calls or I talk to other people who do, always let the people know who you're considering for casting. It's super important. Include social links if you can. No one should walk into a table not knowing who they're going to share a table with. You cannot know if there are personal issues between people. There are a lot of times where it's not even necessarily someone's a problematic individual. It can just be something as simple as, they and I don't get along or feel comfortable sharing a table, no one's done anything wrong, we don't click. So it's really important to not put someone in a position where they have to come to you about that and be like, hey, I know I'm here. I agreed to this. This is very uncomfortable, but I can't share a table with this person now. So always let people know who you're casting. For us,
Yeah.
you usually when, oh, I'm sorry, please.
I was
Go ahead.
just going to say, like, it is not, Jareth, I swear, it is not unheard of in this space. And I know because I have been on the side of this where someone's like, oh, I love that person. We're best friends. Cast us together. And it's like, they've done nothing wrong.
But no, thank you.
But yeah, that person and I did one game with them, and again, they're fine. Just our play styles didn't click. And this is especially true for the more marginalized of people, because certain people will glom on to the more marginalized people who they feel have a bigger audience and will try to ride those coattails. Apologies, I had to do that.
And the vibe check is really important, because if you're planning on either running tables at home or in shops or on streams, the number one piece of advice I can give anybody is watch games. And so Kay and I both will watch different channels, check stuff out. I famously send screenshots to Kay to talk about, like, oh, this person did this. This is interesting. And funny enough, Jason, who does a lot of our overlays, I was talking to Candace. Candace was like, oh, I was in such and such a game. I check it out. I'm like, hey, this element from the overlay design is really interesting. I should talk to Jason about this the next time we do a thing. And they were like, oh, no, it's Jason who did this overlay. And I was like, oh, great, fantastic. But the number of tables where either it's very obvious there's no chemistry between like any of the people, or there's one odd person out where like
one person who's like, I am the star.
Right.
Everyone else is here to support me.
And it doesn't mean that you can't have a big personality or you can't have big personalities at the table, because we've had tables with it are all big personalities. But they all had great chemistry and really worked well together. And so like really taking the extra step to fill people out, not only for like, your table composition and performance and all that, but also so that people feel comfortable working with you and working with their fellow people. Like selfishly, it makes you look better because people like working with you because they're comfortable. But also, like, anyone who's played with us knows the first and last thing that we say is player safety is paramount. Like,
couldn't agree more.
You are going to be safe in this space. I will burn this bitch down. I don't care. You are going to be okay.
Hell yeah, love that. Yeah, safety is so important to what we do, and it's something where anyone who knows me will tell you, I get almost like gleeful anytime someone brings up a new safety tool that I haven't seen before. Like we are constantly trying to update like our safety sheets and our safety protocols. We have like a living sheet that we use that's shared between the cast, so that there's always actively a way to ensure that everyone's aware of where things are at any given time. Recently, we just started a new thing that I'm so in love with. Someone mentioned this to me. I will not name them only because I haven't gotten the green light on sharing that information. I don't want to put anyone out there who isn't comfortable with it. But just the safety. It's almost like a safety on a gun, where you have this thing where your safety is on by default, and that means your character can't die. It doesn't matter what the game is, doesn't matter what the situation is. Safety's on, character can't die. And at any time when you are comfortable with it, whether it be because the narrative calls for it in a way that you like, or because you think it would create more tension, you can just decide your safety is off. You can mention it, you can text it, you can do whatever you want to do to inform your GM that the safety is off. And that's something that immediately when I heard it, I'm like, this is phenomenal and this is great.
Yeah.
So it's something that we've incorporated because I think that's so important. And I think that there's a lot of other ways that you can do similar things. but it's all about that communication, right? Like, so the reason I bring it up is because that communication is so important. Accountability and safety only exists when you can communicate with each other. And I think that also ties back to this idea of having chemistry together at the table, because it's so much more than just being able to, like you said, perform with each other, so much more than just being able to like share the spotlight. It's also, as people sitting at the table, having that ability to be comfortable going, I don't like this moment. Let's not do this. Because I know. Oh,
David, do you want to share your favorite statement that you stole from me? Favorite description of
organizing organizing a session is like organizing an orgy. It's like organizing group sex. You got to make sure that everybody's okay with each other and that everybody's safe and nobody's doing any weird shit that everybody else isn't okay with.
100%. I love that.
Tap out at any time. Got to know
Right.
what's okay with who. Like, I got so annoyed at trying to balance all the things. Like, we made a Google Docs based Lines and Veils sheet that auto updates. It updates across everyone while keeping who answered what private, unless you want to share it. I'm like, no, GMs are doing too much work. Let's make this easy so that everyone can reference it, and it's not a heckin' problem. Yes, and Lurking Writer says not everyone is going to get along in all situations, and that's okay if everyone's still respectful. As everyone's saying, it's important to have those session zeros, chemistry reads, vibe checks, especially for any sort of AP or long form game. And look, it's not like we're a bunch of theater kids who have drama that may or may not pass.
Did I come here to get called out? I don't know if
Right. And one of the cool things about safety tools, because we've had session zeros where like 2 or 3 people are like, hey, is this okay? Hey, is that okay? And like very carefully like went through so that when the game was actually like going, like these characters were like all on top of each other. We've had like romances and like people like making out and like people doing fastball specials and grabbing people and throwing them and doing all these like cool things where if you didn't check in beforehand, either it would have been in very bad form to do it or someone would have avoided doing it altogether. And so like it makes for better performances. But the other cool thing is, so like, you know, I was born and am a man. So there's a whole lot of like really scary things that I haven't experienced. And so with our active sort of like red flag table or threat assessor, I have learned about so many more phobias and so many more like different things that I just would never have thought of would be bothersome to somebody. And just learning that stuff has been really cool and also given me way more ideas to fuck with my characters.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, you don't like sand? Well, guess what? There's a beach here. Like you're in a sand pit with a bunch of snakes. Go. And again, like, you know, like you're not going to do that to the person who doesn't like who is like sand red. But like we had one player that was like, hey, can I have a map to this thing? And Kay and I are very like one of the ways in which we're similar in terms of our GM style is we're very theater of the month. Me because I am terrible at art, and Kay because they're so
art look good enough as what's in my head.
So particular and so detailed that we've had games where Kay has spent more time building the maps than any other part of the game. But they're like, hey, I don't visualize things. And I was like, wait, how does that work? And we had like this discussion, and then that made its way onto our table. But now, even if it's just like a shitty MS Paint drawing, and let me tell you, all of my maps are shitty MS Paint drawings. We make sure we add like at least some sort of map element for people who can't visualize it. And it makes it so that other players who can visualize it, it brings them closer to being on the same page, which again enhances performance. And so all of these like tools and threat assessments and sort of no-go zones all enhance your product and everybody's experience from player to viewer.
Yeah. And when you've built up that trust, right, going back to having those conversations with your GM and with your table. If anyone from Chalice is watching this, I don't think you are, but anyone except Jago, look, don't, spoilers, stop. So I've been in this home game for going on 3 years. It started as a streamed, we're about to hit 3 years, and I play a magic user. Magic users are rare in this world. It is both the joy and the bane of my GM's existence. It is a highly lethal system. We are all aware that if our character dies, our character dies. The GM will do his best to give us, a great out, but we are all on board. We've all signed up. We know what's going on. We're good. We've had player characters kill other player characters in game. Everyone's fine, right? This is a great group, and we're reaching a point of a big climactic thing happening. And because we're about to switch systems as well, so the GM's like, okay, well, we might have to do some rebalancing with your character's magic. And it's like, actually, after 3 years and knowing this world and going into a new system and having a climactic thing about to change, I don't know if it works, but my character could just lose their magic. My GM's like, oh, I could do so much with this. And I'm like, And that was something that not too long ago, I would not have been okay with. But as the story and the party evolved and I came to understand what the GM might be able to do, I'm like, that might actually be fun. So to say, it's really good to have a living Lines and Veils doc and a living doc where you can, and ongoing conversations, because what was a problem yesterday might not be a problem today. And what wasn't a problem yesterday might be a problem today. If you have a family member go through a medical emergency, maybe you don't want that same kind of medical emergency to show up in your game.
Perhaps. Yeah, and I think that is something that is also so often forgotten is communication doesn't end after session 0. You have to have a full line of communication all throughout your game, whether it be a home game, whether it be a streamed game. There are a lot of differences between like actual play content and home games, which is something I know is also something that needs to be discussed a lot. But one of the things that is the same is that there has to be that line of communication. It has to exist. It has to always exist at all times. If you're not comfortable having conversations with your tail slinger, with your GM, if you're not comfortable having conversation with people at your table, you need to have a conversation about that. Because if you are not able to communicate, then you will not feel fulfilled. You will not find yourself in a place where you're happy with the way things are going. And ultimately, it can also lead to being in a really unsafe position sometimes, which is just never worth it. It's never worth it. Having the conversation will always get you into a better situation.
TTRPGs are best when you can be vulnerable. And that can mean different things. In horror, it means potentially exposing yourself to the thing that you are most afraid of when you are comfortable and you know you can bail out. And that might be pursuing a relationship with another player character that you wouldn't do that before. If you don't have trust that you will be taken care of, you can't take risks.
Yeah. So you brought up having a relationship with another player character, and I want to talk about that for a minute, if that's okay, because it gives us a chance to something else that we I think about 6 months ago now implemented was I had a conversation with someone who was like, hey, so I have been in games where people have decided to message day of in the chat and be like, hey, had a thought about what if our characters were in a relationship? What do you think? Knowing it's like 8 hours to airtime. Now, it doesn't mean that there's an inherently malicious like intent here. But when you do something like that, you do create potentially a really uncomfortable situation where the person might be like, I need to think about this. I want to have a conversation about this. We're not going to have the time before we go to air. I know that this episode is where you are. Oh, there they are. That's where you know that you're going to be put in that position on the spot. And so you end up really uncomfortable or really anxious about it. And I was really glad that someone came to me with that because, again, for me personally, I never have an issue with that, and so it's something I fully overlook. But since then, we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and what we now do is we have written into our like rules. You have to have a 48-hour grace period before you, if you want to ask that, be like, hey, we have at least 2 days until our game. Here's what I'm looking to do. I'm interested in it, and it has to be done like on our server or where our mods can see it, because we want to be able to make sure that the approach is respectful and done properly. And if it's something you don't want to be like out in front of the rest of the cast because you want it to be something that surprises them, as long as you get consent from the person, we sit down in like a group chat with one of our mods and y'all can have that conversation. But that's something that I think also just, for me, I know I overlooked it for a very long time because I've been playing these games for longer than I want to say, because I think my bones will turn to dust if I say it. But it's something that is so great and so useful. Hey, so great and so useful because it allows for that safety and that comfort for everyone. And in doing so, allows you to be vulnerable and emotional and open in ways you wouldn't be otherwise.
And that's when I built our sheet, our lines and veils. I went, so I took Sword and Key had a great one which had incorporated, so it's red, yellow, green.
Right, yeah.
They had teal, which is, the answer is probably yes, but ask first.
Oh, I love that.
I just need to know. And I took that and said, okay, I've got one more I want to add. I put in orange, which is, this is fine for other people, but I do not want to engage with it.
I'm really glad you mentioned that too, because that's something that I have recently been trying to figure out. Because again, I'm very open about this. I have an issue with my characters drowning. I have a trauma from when I was younger. It's fine. We don't have to get into it. But I have an issue with my character drowning. I will not have any problem with anyone else drowning. We have because of the way our sheet is set up, we have left it so that it is a single sheet, but everyone puts input into it and it's kept anonymous. But it makes it a little difficult to mark it and be like, for me personally. We do have a notes area that we leave, so if anyone is comfortable expressing that, they're able to just be like I do that every time, right? Where I'm like, this, but for me. And I'll usually leave it where I'll leave it either on green or I'll leave it on like, so our yellow is ask, make sure before you do. And I'll just be like, for me, this is a no-go, but like have at it. And that way other people, if they're uncomfortable, if they can still move it without having to out themselves or express that it is them who put it there and not me. But I love that. I love that so much. I think that's great. And
I have a bag dog phobia. I've been attacked a couple times. I'm like, I don't want to pet your dog. I don't want you to not have a dog in game if that's what you want. I'm just not going to interact with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another one that we recently had some conversations about. So we have like harm to animals on our sheet, but I realized that we had a lot of these conversations of, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean like harm to domestic animals? What if there's like an angry dire wolf that is trying to actively eat your face? So we separated
like,
that.
Wild animals, domestic animals.
Yeah,
we that sort of thing.
Yep. And I think it really is just super important to be able to listen, be able to hear, because your sheet will never be perfect. And the willingness to know that and go, what am I adding today is great. It's such a fantastic experience.
I hope your bunny doesn't hear also, Jason.
But
yeah, and that's the thing, is you do have to ask and you do have to listen, because you will never create the perfect sheet. And if you do, it is going to be too overwhelming and too nitpicky for anyone to ever deal with.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You got to figure that out.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. And I think that also part of it will come down to you as the person running the game, the AP, whatever it is. Because the way that you go about addressing your safety sheet can differ. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes there are different tools that you'll use for your safety and different things that you connect where it'll work better for you than it might for someone else. And even down to just like tools at the table, right? Like we use a modified stoplight system. We have like our emergency X card set up. But for some people, I know that it works better to also include like an OK check-in system, which I've seen used a lot very well. For people who are using like VTTs, there's also the safety flower, which is a really cool one. And it's going to differ for you and your tables what works best. So it's good to have your baseline, but be willing to, we put it on all our forums where it's like, is there something that we can do that you would prefer in safety or in accountability or in accessibility that will ensure that you are comfortable at our table having those communications engaging?
Well, and also, go, David.
I do, for again, big GM tip. So I tell everybody at my table, when you sit down at my table, your character is in danger. If you do stupid stuff, you will die. However, if you have a familiar, like if you're a hunter with a pet, or if you're a warlock with they're good. They're gravy, because you never know when somebody is like, oh man, my familiar is a cat named Chuckles, and Chuckles was like their pet cat for like the first 18 years of their life, and then like died of cancer, and you don't want to do things to Chuckles because that'll just damage your players. So yeah, if you bring us a familiar to my table, you are good.
If you watch the Dimension 20, the wrestling one, they get to the very last episode, and she's like, "Yay, Waffles the cat is fine. Waffles is my cat, by the way."
Woof. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and also like in the realm of different things work for different tables. One of the most fun experiences I had was at Sword and Key, because they didn't just have a green, yellow, red system. They actively encouraged like a green, like, I am loving this, a green, like, this is great. And so you'd be having this intense conversation with someone, and you have that moment of like, I'm taking up a lot of time, taking up a lot of space, as other people, and you look over and someone's like, I love this, right? Or it would be, I hate it, don't stop, right? And they'd have customized their little green cards. And it was just like, it gave so much more permission to be able to do those things and have those in-depth character moments and make those connections with, while also respecting everyone else. And that wouldn't work at every table. I don't think it would have worked well at Godplane, right? But mostly because people were like, oh, like it was pretty clear when Candace was into it.
And yeah, again, like greens are just as important, if not more important than reds, because players, at least at our tables, are generally extremely considerate people, really nice people. And so when you extend to that person, say, hey, I know you'd usually be very careful about this. However, feel free to go for it. That, again, fosters a lot more interaction, a lot more diversity of play, and, again, better performances.
I love the moments when characters are like fighting and being nasty, and then you see chat and everyone's like the private streamer chat where it's like, are you okay? I'm so sorry. My character said, I love you so much. Are you? It's just
it's and there are some of the best moments that I've ever seen on like our streams when things like that happen are the moment before when you see that message pop up in the Discord where it's like, hey, is it okay if I do this? And they're like, yeah, go for it. And you just get to sit back and watch everything implode in the best way possible. Messy games are the best games as long as everyone has greenlit it and is comfortable. Messy games are the best games.
I forget what game. I think it was an episode of Godplane, but Candace is actively crying, like tears running down her face.
That was Bo's trial when I went, oh no, I broke my friend.
Right.
Oh no, I did a bad.
In the group chat, Candace is like, no, I'm good. But like both Kay and I, because like we co-GM that, like Kay is on screen, but I'm like feeding details and running production and doing all that stuff. And like there's the conversation in the group chat, and then there's the conversation Kay and I have, because like there'll be like lore stuff, and Kay's like, I'm not looking that up. David will look that up. But we're having an active conversation of like, oh my God, is this okay? And then Candace is like, hey, this is fine. Now, and then both Kay and I had this like sigh of relief. But it was this really great moment, and it was extremely intense, and it was one of the high points of the series. All because we had this open communication.
One of my favorite moments in the home game was we had a character who died, whose life had been ruined by another player character. And we just found out that connection. And the GM brought back that dead character in a vision to like taunt the still alive player character and let the player take over his now dead character. And messages the GM and is like, okay, so is this like my character or is this the big bad like puppeting the skin of my character? And the GM's reply was, hurt them. Like,
Love
that
that
stuff is so good. Yes, 100% Rex says on the characters being nasty to each other and the Discord being all, we good? Keep going, you monster. I love it. And yeah, my character detests this and the entire situation, and your character, I, however, love this in you. But yes, as we are quickly chewing through our time, excellent conversations. I wish these captions were just behaving just a little bit better. I don't know why they're not behaving better, but we need to talk about Shoot Your One Shot.
Yeah, absolutely. We should talk about Shoot Your One Shot. So it's something that we're very excited. We're going to be launching over the summer as well. Everything we're talking about, I guess the two things, because we've been talking about a lot of other fantastic, very important stuff. But everything that we're talking about, like for any of this, is stuff we're launching through the summer. So Shoot Your One Shot is an idea that we're planning that we're going to be putting out a pitch form for. And we're going to be looking for opportunities for BIPOC creators, storytellers, to be able to pitch their stories, their one-shots that they would like to tell. And then once a month, we're going to take all the work, we're going to assemble the cast, we'll get all the production stuff done, the overlays and everything else, and we're going to create opportunities for people to come on and tell their stories. Tell us what you want to share with the world, and we're going to make it happen to the best of our ability. It's something we're really, really excited for. It is one of those things where I'm always looking for opportunities for people to come on and tell stories that aren't just like me running games. Because as I said earlier, I like to hide behind the shadows wherever possible, because there's already plenty of this out there. It's fine. But this is one of those things where I legitimately woke up one day and I went, why aren't we doing this yet? Let's do this. And everyone was like, yeah, why aren't we doing this? Let's do this. So it is something we're really excited for. We're probably going to have that sheet out mid-June. And we'll be hoping to be able to run our first one in July, and then every month moving forward in perpetuity from there, for as long as we have people who are interested in telling stories with us.
Amazing. Yeah, it's distraction time.
It's the best distraction.
Yeah,
So now that we've covered like at least a couple of the many projects that y'all are launching very soon, talk to us about organizing.
Yeah,
There's a lot of plate spinning.
We got a little off from there. I know we had been talking about it before, and then we got, you know what it is, we got swept up in the safety talk, because I always do. But so it's very much about again, not letting us veer off, but it's very much about those communications and those conversations. A lot of reaching out, a lot of doing the hard thing and planning much further ahead than you think that you can a lot of the time. Just being able to sit down and like go, okay, I know we can't set our dates until we've had our session safety zero, or our safety session 0. But I know that the series is going to run for 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 episodes. I know how many weeks that is. I can block out that time. I can know, because hopefully by the time you get your table together, you know what day you're going to be running, what day of the week. So you can block those dates out. A lot of it is stuff that is helped by having spreadsheets, stuff that is helped by being able to, half the time I scribble things on Post-it notes and I stick them up on my computer even. Just because being able to like quick reference things is very helpful. It depends on what you're doing. So for like the one-shot stuff, and for the series that we're doing, we have a like living agenda. We have a document on Google that lays out everything we want to be doing now, everything we plan on doing for the next quarter, everything we are already in the process of doing. And then we lay out checkboxes for what we still need to accomplish. What do we need to get done in order to move to the next steps here? And that way, it's a lot harder to end up overwhelmed because you can just look at what's our next step. What is the next thing we have to do? Okay, so we've reached out to all our cast. We're waiting on responses. Let's get the player informational document set up. We can do that, so that way everyone will come in and get their welcome packet, the safety sheet, the game book in the event that there's the game book, the character sheet, whatever it may be. You can create like calendar links so that when this is ready, you have it to just throw out to people. You can create you always have the safety sheet set up beforehand, and for us, like our tail singer always gets to look it over first, so they can check off what they know they're not gonna get involved with, and like put down what they think they want to include in the series, and then go from there. And then a lot of it is the chaotic whirlwind of keeping in communication with these people and bringing them all in. So for me, it's a weird situation, only so far as that, like, when I'm going to go back for a moment to when I first got into doing this. So not too long after I got involved, there was the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And I immediately was like, this is bullshit. And I happen to have a couple people who I know follow what we do. We're going to do a charity event. Boy, if that wasn't the biggest learning experience of my life. Having done this for like a month and then being like, we're going to do a charity event and getting like 70 people involved. And then being like, okay, how do I seat all these people? How do I keep all of this organized? And really the answer is documents and spreadsheets. It's a lot of being able to lay out the information whatever way will work best for you. And that's why I think it's a little hard to answer this question in a way that's like take home for yourself forever, because I think that everyone processes information very differently. Some of us, like my specific flavor of neurospicy means that I do very well when I can look at everything. Even if it's a bunch of random names and numbers on a spreadsheet, that gives me what I need to be able to piece those pieces together. For some people, that's not true. That can be super overwhelming. And I find that it can be a lot easier to, especially now that Google Docs has the different like tabs that you can add, that allows you to break that up even more. So it doesn't even have to be in front of you anymore all the time. You can just have the piece that you're working on right now. And then the rest is in other tabs, and you will be able to just jump on those whenever. But a lot of it is just sort of pacing yourself also, if that makes sense. I know I'm going in a lot of directions, and I do apologize for that. But it's just a lot of making sure you get that communication done, bringing people together, keeping an eye on the process. Because like when I'm running production for stuff, a lot of the time, I then take a step back outside of the roles I have to be running for like representing the studio. So once I've gotten like a table together and we schedule the session 0, cool. I'm there for the session 0. I go over our rules, I go over our regulations, I go over our safety stuff. I make sure everyone's read the welcome packet. I make sure everyone's filled out the safety sheet. And then I'm just kind of there, and I'm just keeping an eye, and I'm listening in on what's happening and what's going through, and making sure that nothing is like poking up those red flags. Once the cast is together and everything, then the promotional stuff comes up, and organizing that is also, I think, harder now than it used to be, because again, there's a lot more sources that you have to hit. So it's not as easy to like just throw it out on the one social and be done. There is a lot that comes from now being in communication with other groups that you have built these connections with, and being like, hey, we're going to be launching this. Can you just like, if you see it, can you retweet it? We obviously will do the same for you. If we can post about it in your community. A lot of the Discords have like self-promo stuff, which is great. And it's, again, I think the crux of it will always be that communication. Just at every step of the way, having the ability to talk with people and figure out what works best for you based on what feedback you're getting back, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's a good answer. I apologize if it's not. I know I jumped around.
It is. And like that's the other thing is no one process works for everyone and no one process is going to work for you forever. You have to learn and grow and expand and change. And what worked for, when you were a smaller channel might not work when you're a bigger channel.
Yeah, that's so true. I can't imagine, again, just going back to that like first days of Tales. I can't imagine again being like, I'm just gonna throw this out and whatever happens, happens. And as people message me, I'll figure it out. Just because. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say there is one universally applicable rule which I am terrible at, and I'm glad that Kay is the adult at our company, and that is time. Like when we do our charity games, like August 1st hits, and either me or Kay will go, all right, so what are we doing for the charity game this year? And our charity games are in December.
Yeah. You have to. You have to get that.
And
like
we start casting either end of August, early September, but like by like August 2nd, we are writing and brainstorming, and that's just for one 3 or 4 hour event. So like if you're going to plan like a Body and Soul, we started talking about in November, I want to say, and when Q brought it to us, it was like Q had already done a bunch of legwork on it already, like months of legwork. But like if you're going to do a 4 or 6 shot, or if you're going to do like a 6-month long game, or anything more than like one, like you got to give yourself enough lead time, not only for you to do all the things that you need to do, but for everyone else involved to do all the things that they need to do. And also to factor in the idea that life happens to people. And like, if you've got kids, those kids are going to get sick and you're not going to get anything done for an entire week.
Yeah.
You have to factor
because
in for
not
something
only
to go wrong.
Not only is the kid going to be sick for 2 days, but you're going to be sick for a week after because you catch what the kid has. And the kid will bounce back and be like, oh, everything's great. Look at how energetic I am. And meanwhile, you're just full of snot and you're like, God damn it.
Yeah, you got to be prepared for your Photoshop files to get corrupted and you have to start all over on the overlay.
That happened to Kay and brutal.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared
rough
for Twitter to turn into a Nazi site and rethink all of your marketing.
Yeah. I don't know if Nazis coming back was something I could prepare for, but oh boy. As I will preface it with I am Jewish. I'm very open about I'm Jewish. I grew up in a Jewish household. I heard a lot of like firsthand accounts, unfortunately, because that's and boy, whew, not what I had in the cards. But we're here. I'm sorry, I don't want to derail with that, but
Rex says the Blues Brothers tried to
Blues Brothers did try to warn us, yeah.
Jason says Shadowmane is going to be running a few articles about project management in running games sometime this summer.
That's awesome. That's so great. Yeah, because that's something that I think is very important, and it's brought up and gets overlooked a lot. Is that idea of like, it's that 12-week turnover, right? It's not quick. I have an idea now. We're probably not getting into it till January. The only difference for the only exception rather for us is when something happens that immediately needs like a charity event, like when the wildfires broke out in California.
Yeah.
I think we organized that in under a week, where it was like, this is happening.
Wow.
And
you got a basic infrastructure and a network, like you can put things together quickly, but that's also that's not a series, right? That's not
do not recommend.
So for us, we do, and again, I get yelled at for this sometimes because I'm always the one doing production for most of it, and a lot. We share other hats, but is we do either 38 hours over the course of a weekend, or we do as many games as I can fit into my schedule across a month. So for the wildfires, we did as many games as we could fit over the course of a month, and I can't be more grateful to our community because it was one of those things where Axtel was like, "Hey, this is a thing that's happening, and we should do something about it." And I'm like, "You gave me an excuse to do a charity event. I'm going to do a charity event." And within like 2 days, I had all of the stuff like prepped. Q had already set up like our overlay stuff, and I literally just was like, "Hey, listen, Discord people, this is what we're going to do. If you're interested, let us know and we're going to make it happen." And then we threw it on all the socials, and we're very lucky that it was able to come together, but that shouldn't be the norm. uh it absolutely shouldn't. Yeah, no, please don't make that norm. Yeah, I am not a good example for when it comes to charity events, because I am constantly having to be reined in by the rest of our staff, where I'm like, this is a thing. I want to do this event. Let's do it right now. I'll do all the planning. I'll do all the prep work. I can run production. It's fine. And it's like,
think about that.
Let's bring it down a little bit. I'm very grateful to them.
Very, very quick step back. The other thing you have to be prepared for is, yes, you have to start early, but then you also have to be prepared for one of your players losing a job or having to move or having a kid, and then they can't show up.
Yep. Yeah, and there are a couple ways you can go about dealing with that. For shorter series, sometimes we'll talk to people about having having a backup player. Hey, this is a series we're doing. Here are the people at the table. In the event that someone is not able to do this, would you be interested in being involved? Obviously, we're not in a position where we can pay right now, as much as I would love to be able to pay our performers, because everyone deserves to be paid for their time. Very important. So it's doubly so when you're like, hey, if you happen to have the scheduling open, would you be interested in maybe being involved down the road? Can be kind of difficult sometimes. So it's not something you can always do, but we try and do it wherever possible. Sometimes you just have to accept that it means there'll be a bit of a delay, and that's okay. And you can also just have the conversation with the table and be like, listen, if we're down a player and we're still at like 3 players or 4 players, do we want to just move forward as is instead of staying here and trying to figure this out and going through like the safety again and going through the like character concepts again to make sure everyone is still, woven in together.
One of the things I always stress you should discuss, home games especially, but homed and streamed games, how many people have to bow out if we're not in the middle of a specific character's arc, but if we're missing a person and it's not, the entire plot doesn't revolve around them at this moment, because everyone has their moment in the spotlight, but like, you have to ask early, hey, if one person is missing, are we all cool going forward? Or else the first person who's missing, and you say we're moving forward anyway, people get upset. People get their feelings hurt and feel like it's personal. Have that conversation in your session 0.
Yeah, 100%. Can't co-sign that enough.
Very quickly running out of time. So tell us about Game Jam. And then we're going to wrap up.
Yeah. Okay. So in July, we're going to be running our first Game Jam, the Wayfarer's Journey Game Jam. So Zach Walsh from Scheduled for Launch, who is also one of our staff, came to us and was like, hey, I think it'd be a really cool, new, different way for us to platform creators. Because there are a lot of people who are creators in the space who aren't interested in being on camera and telling stories, aren't interested in being players, but they still have these games that they want to do, they want to present, they want to put out, or even they have that creative drive but haven't found the like spark yet to put it into place. So the Wayfarer's Journey Game Jam is something we're going to be doing where it's going to be like a 5-10 page maximum for a game. We're being completely open to system, completely open to however you want to take the concept and sort of craft it. So for myself and for Zach, there's a lot of interest when it comes to TTRPGs in exploration specifically. Exploration of the world, exploration of your relationships, exploration of yourself and your position within the world. And that's something that we really wanted to allow people to play with and have fun with and explore. And so it's going to be something where we put very, very little into the sort of like structure of it. It's very much just going to be the title, which again is Wayfarer's Journey. What does that evoke for you? What does it mean for you? What is the Wayfarer? What is their journey? How do you find that? What does it mean? And it's something we're really excited to be able to just sort of put out there and let people do. It's going to be unranked. It's not like a contest. We're not going to have a winner. But it's something that's going to allow us to take all of these games that are put in and be able to present them to our community and people beyond and be like, hey, look at all these cool creators, look at all these cool concepts, look at all these cool games that, again, at 5-10 pages are going to be probably something you can play pretty quickly or without a lot of prep work, whether they be like solo games or games for you and your friends or duet games, which are some of my favorites, by the way. I love the like short page duet games. They can be a lot of fun. And so it's something that we're really excited about. And it doesn't hurt that a lot of the staff has been on like an epic kick lately. So it made it pretty definitive for us to go with this as the concept.
Nice. Amazing. Well, we are quickly running out of time. Chat, if you have any last minute questions for Lion or comments you want to get out, now is the time. So, as we wrap up, remind us, Lion, who the heck is you? Where can we find all your stuff? We have another... Ooh, you have a spotty kitty, too.
Yeah, this is Kai. Hey, baby.
Kai looks very like Gilmore.
Yeah. Come here, you want to say hi? Sometimes he wants to say hi, sometimes he doesn't. Oh, I don't think he does today. No.
Yeah.
No, today he just wants to be a butt on the screen. That's okay.
That's fine. I had a parrot for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, me. Yes. So, I'm Drake Lionheart. Most people call me Lion. I am the studio director for Tales from the Table Studios. You can find me everywhere at It's Drake Lionheart, except you should instead go to TFTT Studios. So he laid down on my keyboard. You should instead go to TFTT Studios on all socials, Tales from the Table Studios, everywhere, because that's where we do all the cool things we do. We're usually running some kind of casting or planning some kind of charity event. And even if we're not, we are always open for you to pop in, say hi, talk to us, tell us what you want to do, and we'll work to make it happen. We also are in the process of creating, we hope to have done by the end of the year, a pretty large catalog of tools for safety, accessibility, creativity, across all of the spectrum for storytellers, game designers, people who are looking to make their games, again, more accessible or more safe and accountable. Ways for you to go about getting assets for your art, for your music, that are both ethical and either free or cheap. Creators who present either free or cheap tools for creating characters and worlds and stories. There are a lot of amazing people out there who don't get the respect and attention that they deserve, but they are creating so much amazing content that you can use to make more content. And it would just be a beautiful thing to see more of that, because the more that we work with each other, the more incredible our things will become, and the more growth there will be overall in the community.
Absolutely. Rex says, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on and telling us about what you're doing and how you do it. Lurking Writer says, well, Rex said it best, appreciate the insights on the production side of things, too. So yes, sincerely, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. Yeah, I am Kay. I am one half of Chaotic Wholesome. Find me here Tuesdays doing this. Thursday, find me over at Metalark Productions for the end of A Sterling Garden Star Wars 5e adventure. It's fine. We're only going up against a Mandalorian and a Sith. It's cool. It's all fine. It's no issues.
That's
Yeah, that
literally
sounds safe.
See, that's just one of the tables that we have with players on Path of the Fates. One of our tables is a Mandalorian and Sith. It's fine.
we have it's fun because the Mandalorian and Sith are the sisters of two player characters, who's a Mandalorian and a not Sith. So they're dating and their siblings are dating, and that's the most
Perfect.
Star Wars thing ever.
Yeah,
Most
100%.
Star
We
Wars
love
thing
to see
ever.
it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I made the messiest disaster queer, and she's not the messiest. She's very much not the messiest.
That's a gift. It's a gift.
It is fun. Otherwise, we have stuff in the works, but we just got David back, so we're giving him time to recover. But we thank you all so much for hanging out with us and for always being an amazing community. Yes, one of the players is a cat named Thunder, who has
Love
5
that.
legs because he lost his 6. David, who the heck is you, and what the heck are we doing here?
I am David. Thank you for joining us for the Tuesday Table Talk Show presented by Chaotic Wholesome and Drake Lionheart. But every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, how to get your cats on screen, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
And as always, thank you all so much. Go check out Tales from the Table Studios. Drake, Lion, thank you again for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
Chat. As always, you have been a delight. We did not get into Centaurs or Star Wars or Star Trek. I am shocked. We did in the green room, but not on stream.
We'll just have to do this again sometime, and we can spend the whole time doing Centaurs and Star Trek. I'm here for it.
I would say that chat is slacking, but no, chat was awesome. So, as always, we will see you next week. Be kind to yourself, be excellent to others, and we'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.